Greetings. Let's talk. I had a really funny conversation recently. I was at our event, Wiesenfeuer Baronial, and one of the things that I did that I'm allowed to do now that I have been made a Herald Extraordinary is I put on my Herald's tabard and turned it sideways. Instead of the front panels, the panels going down the front and the back, you turn it sideways so that your shoulder piece kind of is a little bib and the actual long parts run down your arms like sleeves. And I'd want to do this for a couple of weeks now. Ever since I established I was going to be doing site heraldry, I'm like, okay, I want to do this. And only after I got there and I pulled it on did I realize I have no mirror. I have no idea what I look like. So I did 3 or 4 heralds over the course of 5 hours. And I remember walking by Master Elric Draquin, and he commented, "Looking good today, Ivo." Elric and I are good friends, so I know that was probably more a comment of just my general work than about the tabard itself. And I quipped, I said, I have no idea how this tabard looks on me, but the shadow looks amazing, because it did. The sun was catching it just right, and I had this glorious silhouette in front of me of my frame with my broad shoulders and these giant sleeve-like, wing-like things hanging down off my arms as I'm sitting there heralding, holding my notes up, doing this. And the silhouette looked awesome, but it wasn't until, I don't know, 4 or 5 days later, someone published a photo of me where I actually got to see what I looked like. I do happen to think it looks amazing. That's something I will do in the future, because it does visually make a very striking impact. It's like one of the very few privileges Heralds Extraordinary have. So I'm like, you know what? I'm down for this. I'm going to do this. And that really does segue into another conversation I had. Now, you need to understand, this is a long-running talking point between me and one of my friends. And it is understood that part of any rank that you earn in the SCA, in our opinion, is a unwritten charter, unwritten mandate that you help others get that far. If you get your award of arms, part of your work after that should be helping other people who don't have their award of arms get their AOA. If you receive in our kingdom, if you receive a Star of Merit, part of your work after you receive your star, after you're made a member of the Order of the Star of Merit, rather, should be helping others who want to work toward that goal. And that's a long-standing conversation. It's I don't know if that's actually required by our kingdom's award charters or the awards constitution, but that absolutely is a ethical goal that I hold myself to. And after I was elevated to, or elevated or made, or whatever verbiage you want to use, after I was made a Herald Extraordinary, one of my friends contacted me, which in itself is uncommon, we talk all the time, and said, "So I have to ask, how do I become a Herald Extraordinary?" And there is an answer for that, but it kind of treads on a slightly darker discussion. In the SCA, we kind of bandy about the word heroic a lot. And it's not inappropriate. There are absolutely things that we do and things that people around us do that truly do count as heroic. There's nothing wrong with that statement. There is heroism on the battlefield. There is heroism in service. Frankly, there are some arts and sciences ventures I've seen where the type of work put into the research and the type of effort put into the justification, the documentation, not to mention the quality of work put into the final product. Now, in and of themselves, those are amazing, but when you consider that these are never done in a vacuum. This was done while the person was ill, or while the person was dealing with a sick child, or while the person was dealing with a car that broke down and set them back several $1,000s. In the context of what was going on around them, I would absolutely consider those efforts, those accomplishments, heroic. These are not light terms that we use a lot, and part of the SCA's kind of culture helps amplify. It gives us a lot of venues to recognize heroism. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but when I was named Herald Extraordinary, a lot of the work that was cited was work that I had previously, by others and by the Star Principal Herald, had been called heroic. And I'm not one to say it was or wasn't heroic, but I will say that a lot of what I did and a lot of what I continue to do definitely was done under some very challenging circumstances. And that kind of brings us around to my talking point here. Heroism, a heroic situation is something we absolutely should recognize. We should absolutely call out and recognize the person who displays heroic virtues. I'm not taking anything away from those. I think it's absolutely something we should do. But one of the unwritten things about heroism is that when you have a heroic act, when you have an act of heroism or something heroic, or however you want to frame it, almost by definition, something went wrong. Let that sink in. When we talk about someone stepping up and doing something heroic, when we talk about someone doing something valiant, when we talk about someone stepping up to the plate, meeting a challenge, whatever, chances are the flip side of that is something went wrong and someone needs to go above and beyond to fix it. And I don't say that lightly. And here's why I'm saying it. Would have been 10 or 11 years ago now at Gulf Wars. My first night on site, I wound up kind of on my own. I took it upon my own initiative to herald for volunteers for GATE, because for a whole host of different reasons, a lot of the GATE volunteers, relief wasn't making it to them, and there were people who'd been working GATE for 9 hours. Like, there were people, it was 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and there were people who hadn't made it back to their camps to finish setting up their tent. So I went around and, I told the GATE coordinator, I'm like, look, frankly, I'm a major site herald back home. Let me go call for help, because I can help one person, but I bet you I can get more people. And I went around and I heralded, I went to the Green Dragon, and I went to a couple of camps, and I called and I heralded and I announced, and I managed to get people there, and all the people who were tired ultimately managed to get relief and get back to their camps. And some people some people said my effort was heroic, and I'm like, I'm not so cool with that because I was doing what I do. I do voice heraldry, that's my thing. But in the circumstances of that story, I was the hero of the story because I was the one that managed to fix the problem. These people needed a break, they needed relief, they needed people to come take over because they've been doing that job for hours. And I was the one who was able to facilitate getting relief there. So from a narrative standpoint, I'll accept I'm the hero of that story. Now, fast forward a year, and now, did I get recognition for that? Yes, a couple people pulled me aside. I got lots of thanks. I got some largesse for it. I'm very happy about that. And there's a whole story behind that. Fast forward the next year, and what happened? The people who coordinated GATE took the lessons to heart of what happened, and they had a whole different system in place. And when GATE shifts rolled around, there were people there. They didn't need any extraordinary circumstances. There was a much more robust network of communication volunteers standing by so that when someone said, hey, I need a break, there was help there. They didn't need someone to run off into the night and do emergency heraldry. They had a working system. So much of my work as a herald, frankly, and I'll just be blunt about this, was me identifying a situation where things had gone wrong within the heraldic community, whether it was not enough voice heralds or bad heraldic organization or not enough training or not enough education. I mean, take your pick. Those I've stepped up to each of those examples. I identified bad situations and shortcomings, and I stepped in. I just said, okay, fine. I'm going to step in and teach or lead or do whatever the situation was at the time. It is very easy to put the spotlight on me or any of the other people in my field who do that and say hero or heroic or bravo. And I'm not shrugging that away, but that's not the reason I'm having this conversation. How about we ask ourselves, why the hell is heroic effort necessary? Why do we have no heraldry at this event right now? Why is there no coordinating herald? Why are there only 2 volunteers to list herald when we know we're going to have 4 list fields going with almost 60 fighters in the tournament? How did we wind up here? The next time you hear someone say, oh, he's a real hero, he ran into town to grab something, why are we in a situation where someone had to make a last-minute run? Now, that's not to say there's something nefarious or neglectful that put us there. Maybe it's, okay, someone made a human error, made a human mistake. That's fine. Mistakes happen. Okay, cool. Or maybe something got forgotten because there wasn't a checklist and we had to go by human memory, which we all know is remarkably fallible. I'm not saying that to point fingers. I've forgotten plenty of things, good God. But maybe next time we should have a checklist so that we can minimize the likelihood of someone needing to do something heroic. Maybe next time at an event we can do more aggressive recruiting for list and site heralds. That, you know, those are my old haunts. That's my soapbox, is we need more heralds. Am I trying to diminish or take away from the people who step up and go above and beyond, who rightfully should be called heroes in their moment? No, not at all. Not at all. And am I saying that every time something goes wrong that someone is to blame? No, not at all. There are definitely circumstances where, no, there is a human fault to be had, but it's not universal. It's not all of them. But when we talk about someone doing something heroic, we owe it to ourselves to dig a little bit deeper and go, okay, is there anything that we can learn about how we got to this point so that we don't have to revisit this particular act of heroism in the future? If you look at the story of how I got to be a Herald Extraordinary, and you can ask anyone who knows me, the common theme is me jumping in the deep end of a situation where there wasn't enough preparation, there wasn't enough resources, there wasn't enough training. We were short staffed, short equipped, short notice. I mean, just short on everything, and plugging holes as best I can. That was a massive portion of how I got to be a Herald Extraordinary. And would I rather have, am I glad I was made a Herald Extraordinary? Yeah, of course I was glad. I loved the recognition, and it meant a lot to me. But I'll be honest with you, if there was some magical way I could turn over my Herald Extraordinary, resign the rank, and suddenly the college would have proper training and recruitment so we never have to revisit those scenarios again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because it's more important to me that the larger body of heralds have support, have resources, have advance notice, have communication, than me being able to wear a tabard sideways. Again, am I trying to diminish or talk down about heroes in the SCA? No, I'm not. But in order to be a hero in the SCA, the overwhelming majority of the time, it means someone who stepped up into a challenging situation. And what I'm asking you to do is think about heroism as both an opportunity to recognize a hero, which you should, and that's a good thing, and there's no qualifiers on that. But at the same time, we should also look at the situation and see if there's anything we can learn about it, so that going forward we can tackle this type of situation better in the future. If someone was heroic on the battlefield, maybe the people coordinating the fight, not necessarily the marshals, maybe the war leader, so that your next victory doesn't rely on the skill of one person. Or I don't know, maybe you guys want to just, weed out the chaff until you get one Superman figure out there, whatever works for you. When we talk about someone who went the extra mile, that's great. Let's also do all of us the service of asking, why was there an extra mile that needed to be gone in the first place? Could we plan better next time? Can we resource better? Can we communicate better? These are talking points that they sound subtle, they sound quiet, they can even sound insignificant, but I'm here to tell you, both the roads to disaster and success are paved with little seemingly insignificant details that, if done right, if learned from, if treated properly, build a phenomenal foundation for a successful event, activity, or relationship. But if ignored, pave the way to ruin. And I'll just say that. Again, just to say it, to be very clear, I am not taking away from people who do step up and do the extra bit to help the SCA run. That is not my point. But we do owe it to ourselves as SCA members and as members of the SCA community to recognize when there is opportunity for us to learn, to improve, to make things better. Frankly, a lot of times being a hero is exhausting, and do it one time, that's great, but let's not make a habit of it. The best events are the ones where we don't have heroes. We have a bunch of happy people who all had a blast, did a little bit of work, had a lot of fun, and went home and slept. So that's my bit of philosophy for you. If you have any questions or comments or reactions, if you feel like I didn't articulate this one particularly well, or I might have misspoke, please leave your comments down below. That's what they're there for, and I want this to be a conversation. I will see you at the next event, but until then, goodbye, and God bless. If there are two things I've learned that drive videos these days, it's controversy and engagement. Now, I am never going to fly the controversy flag on a regular basis. It's not what I'm here for. It's not the content I want to make, and I really don't think it helps any of us. But let's do engagement. If you like this video, please go down in the comments and leave a comment. Make sure to share the video. And last but not least, easiest of all, make sure to like the video. That helps drive the algorithm. It helps get the video views and helps promote this material. Thank you very much.